Well, it's good to see everybody here. It's great to address everyone. The Zeitgeist Movement, for those who don't know, is a worldwide movement seeking to bring the world together for species sustainability. Yes, in effect, unify the species in a new, sustainable, humane, evolutionary path. The movement looks beyond the negative behaviors and events of everyday life, of institutions, industries, politicians, and nations to bring about a public widespread knowledge of the underlying social system, social structure, factors or anatomy of the social system, if you will, which are in fact motivating the corruption, the imbalance, the conflict in the world today. From the social system awareness, the movement calls attention to the transformative solutions that have become available to the human species through our gradual development of scientific and technical abilities and through our hard-earned awareness of the synergistic, functioning web of life. And that could literally resolve our greatest social and ecological problems and move us into a more advanced and sustainable, humane chapter of our human evolution on this planet. Transformative solutions that are going unapplied due to insurmountable barriers, which are not only present within the current established social system, but which define it at its core basis. We had a good media festival a few weeks ago, the Zeitgeist Media Festival, our annual art activism event. It was at the Federal in North Hollywood. We had some extraordinary talent come through, some new and some that have been a part of the event from the beginning. These people truly care about the future of society, and they use their art as a medium for new thought and activism. Had a good turnout that night, and of course, a large group of people committed their organizing skills and hard work over the weeks and months leading up to this event to bring the many elements of this socially conscious arts festival together. Quite a unique action for a social movement to take, an arts festival. Basically, my thinking behind this is that our common human traits are channeled so nakedly, so clearly through the arts. So any fixed ideologies or biases that people bring in to the event are suddenly quite secondary to that foundational shared human connection expressed in a work of art. It actually couples well with our other annual event, Zeitgeist Day, or Z-Day, where we hold a series of presentations, kind of like what we're doing today, where we kind of discuss the state of society and talk about our possibilities for an improved society. But beyond the Media Festival event having been well executed and well attended, we thought that the crowd took the festival to heart and left inspired and changed in some lasting ways, and we were really happy with that response. And we carry it forward here now with this town hall. We have a few talks here. We have a nice, as Jason was saying, a nice time window planned in for a Q&A interaction. We'll get to connect and meet each other and move to expand this effort. Movement's here to inspire people to become interested in society and in the course of its future. Movement's here to wake people up to the idea that through our modern knowledge and scientific abilities, the entire human population can now be sustained quite effectively with abundant resources and energy, achieving a true human-to-earth habitat balance, all of which the Zeitgeist Movement argues will not come forward under the current system. We must have a restructuring of our social system at its very framework and logic. The view here is that the financial paradigm, not just capitalism, that's simply a variant worldview, an approach to surviving on this planet going back thousands of years to primitive man. So not just capitalism here. The problem goes deeper than that. What we're contesting here is the very relevance and applicability of the idea of trade and tribalism and dividing and conquering each other across this earth as we've done up and down throughout history. We've really exhausted that mode, a mode which must eventually be overcome and shed. And naturally so, with the expansion of our abilities, it becomes more and more of an option to, and a rational course to unify and work together synergistically as a world team. What is taken as some high social theory to balance society and incentivize progress, this trade market system, our present world life system, survival system that we have in place really comes down to a basic outlook of us not having enough control over our environment, and so there's not enough to go around in the world, and so that then a survival of the fittest dynamic is inevitable and should be embraced. a natural enough, realistic enough outlook from which to orient society around. That makes enough sense to me. I guess I can understand why things have been set up that way. In the end, and in theory, I can see why it's said that those, therefore, who should succeed in this arrangement are so then offering the best for society. I can understand that outlook. But as this tribal, every man for himself, socially Darwinistic, open competition to survive over one another way of life has unfolded over time with a degree of exploitation and warfare we are now capable of and permitted to do under the current order, and with our deepening imbalance with nature stemming from this, again, independently competing, tribalistic, nationalistic, divisionary kind of framework, we find this not only an outdated, irrelevant economic worldview, but an absolutely dangerous one for our species to carry forward with respect to the very survival of our species and the inhabitability of the planet. That said, I'm puzzled as anybody to say that our world economies run on this worldview. And as far as I'm concerned, the true mark of an activist in the modern day, no matter his specific concern or quest for change, is to see the social system as the problem, the very basis of our social structure itself, the business model itself, and the psychology and behaviors it encourages and reinforces, and in fact demands, at its base foundation. So as unacceptable as the array of problems we see daily on social media and in the news, our global economic biology runs on it. And no real social, industrial, environmental changes will come about until our social system is questioned, again, at its foundation, and realized as the problem. As its very design has built right into it an underlying schema purposed around profit and business expansion and around staying in business over human or environmental concern. It has built right into it excessive waste and consumption stemming from this requirement to profit from selling things at all times by any means. It's the true mark of an activist in my mind to realize that once the system is the problem for its very design, has built into it motivations for groups and individuals who have had success in the system to then strategically suppress other new methods that perhaps may threaten theirs or their group's success in this system, even if those new methods are more efficient and beneficial to the social whole, limiting our species' progress overall. And can we blame them for one's success is tied to one's survival? There's motivations here for depressing human concern and progress itself, and that is unacceptable. It's the true mark of an activist to see that the system is the problem, for by its very design is absolutely discriminatory and classist. It's unfair and will always have social problems in an unequal framework, and this is overwhelmingly apparent in our social research. The current social system design is what casts the shadow we all live under, failing the great majority of the human population. It must be central in our discussions then for change and in the activist realms, and the hope and interest TZM has here is that it be overcome as soon as possible. The view here is that the social changes sought in today's activist environment will not ultimately come from within the problem, from within the system, from within the current framework of business, politics, law, and finances, but by working out a new, updated social design alongside the current one, expounding on it intellectually and showing visually, technically, new systems for supporting society, from energy to transportation to production to the complex dynamic of incentive and personal fulfillment, social fulfillment, a life system which is profoundly more life supportive, more reflective of modern human potential, more adaptable, and one strictly in sync with the governing laws of nature. Over time, this can displace the arrangement we have today. This is our course. Striving for change from within the existing framework is still, of course, valid, naturally, as we are absolutely stuck with this for now. But in the view of TZM, progressive thought and action from within the current framework will ultimately be shallow and inadequate in the pursuit of complete, lasting, and systemic changes. As embarrassed for society as I am to say that, it needs to be said with all humility and due respect. The view here is that a deeply committed nonviolent worldwide social movement is needed in what, at this age, really is a collective species pursuit in the saving and restructuring of human society. The fate of the human species involves, above all else, a worldwide movement. And the activist community and socially and environmentally concerned must find further unification among their views and actions to come together around a commonly understood set of values, commonly understood set of outlooks, commonly understood set of goals for the improved society to come forward. In essence, a unity of activism, unified activism, very important. And this is the beauty and real power of the Zeitgeist Movement, that it really umbrellas all angles and interests of activism. It integrates the sciences and all known solutions into a total picture, presenting a complete train of thought out of our problems for society going forward. And we have detailed content on that train of thought and what future society could comprise. It's all over the web, of course, and we also have material here today to go home with. Historically here, the Zeitgeist Movement emerged in late 2008, immediately following the release of the viral documentary film Zeitgeist Addendum, which, through the bold depiction of what I'm implying here now, a new advanced, unified economic paradigm, demonstrated quite matter-of-factly to have the ability to secure the well-being of the world's population. This is what spawned an international movement. Since then, many chapter activist groups have organized around the world to spread awareness of this bigger picture implication. These chapters form out of an interest in a given area. That interest turns to initiative. A place to register online is created. Basic meetings are held. People attend and meet each other and start to get on the same page about the kind of awareness actions that can be done. From there, interest in that given area grows, and more people add their efforts synergistically to this, and a growing community, locally and globally, mobilizes around this direction. These talks, of course, are to bring us together and keep building this movement community to examine sensitive social issues, elevate awareness, and present a way forward for society in realistic, tangible, specific terms. But that's only where things start. The information presented here today gives way to the movement part of things, to the buildings of a unified movement throughout Los Angeles and throughout the world, for the eventual leveraging of change through mass interest, large numbers of people ready to collectively, strategically, with an emphasis on nonviolence, withdraw their participation from the present order we all survive under. This might seem like a hopeful dream, and it's not an unrealistic perspective to think that the power interests will just simply not let a global revolution happen. And in addition, we have so many differing perspectives and ideologies out there, along with the imminent social and environmental collapse we face here and now on this planet, hence reason for a global social movement. And so this is what we call a chapter. It's chapters that make this direction possible, chapters or working activist groups which put these events and actions on. People working together to elevate awareness by having an informative, inspirational, and unifying presence in the community. Holding public events and meetings to facilitate and channel interest, to expand into numerous more working groups or chapters seeking relevance in their communities. The development of chapters, this is how it must work. And it really troubles me sometimes to think that if we do have the kind of success we in fact intend here, that it may call down upon us the kind of violent establishment oppression that we've seen throughout history. With that said, I see no other vision other than a sourceless, collectively empowered, global network of chapter groups and individuals. It falls to everyone to actively reflect upon it and maximize their individual powers within this effort. This is about having depth at the positions and roles driving this effort forward with respect to coordination and communication that are foundational to a movement's life. This means doing the little things, the legwork, which add up to little at the time of doing it, but which turn into activism and events and relevance in the long term. This for some means holding meetings for people to get involved in and to plan activism. It means working together with others. It means learning and doing on the fly. This, for others, may mean public speaking. And it was Martin Luther King who said in one of his talks, quote, "Some of us who have already begun to break the silence of the night have found that the calling to speak is often a vocation of agony. But we must speak. We must speak with all the humility that is appropriate to our limited vision, but we must speak." End quote. So let us speak at whatever level we are able to, and we will emerge more influential in time. This effort becomes a manageable curb with the profound empowerment of the individual to act and challenge and go beyond his assumed limits of influence. Understand that our ultimate success here is in the doing, and not so much in the overall outcome or timeline of results. One comes to understand very quickly that being active in such an ambition as this involves a kind of maturity and resolve. So I'll mention that it was also MLK who put to use a helpful phrase relating to this long-term movement process we are engaged in here. And that's the short and simple line, "It is well." It is well, meaning that the goal and success of our efforts is met in the act of simply doing it and how one goes about doing it. Simply trying and doing our very best in that effort, that phrase can really, establish meaning and fulfillment and help in some of the discouragement and impatience with this. It's just well that we are in the process of this direction. It's a subtle point, but I just wanted to pass that along. I hope you find relevance with it. This is my close here. We're looking for new additional working activist groups, multiplying off of the existing functional chapters in place. So please take what you see here has worked and been influential in the LA chapter and elsewhere, and go apply it, go multiply it. For more information and guidance in this, you can go to the zmca.org website. Under chapters, it says start a chapter along the top tab of that website, or please introduce yourself to some of us here. Thank you very much.